My dad booked my high school entrance physical. While getting my blood drawn, I heard the nurse confirm, "Is this the sample for the bone marrow match?" I froze. That wasn't on my physical form. And a match? A match for whom? She accidentally dropped the lab requisition form. As she bent to pick it up, a few lines of text stabbed into my eyes. Patient, Sophia Wu. Diagnosis, acute lymphoblastic leukemia. Guardian signature, David Wu. I picked it up to confirm. It was definitely my dad, David Wu's, handwriting. Who is Sophia Wu? Why is my dad her guardian? I immediately called my dad. Dad, why does a school physical need a bone marrow match? His voice paused, a hint of panic creeping in. The hospital must have made a mistake, right? But it's just a test. Doing 1 or 2 extra won't hurt. I smiled and said okay. After hanging up, I went straight to the ward listed on the form. Walking into the ward, I saw the girl lying in the bed. She was pale and frail. Her eyes and brows looked almost exactly like my dad's. My heart sank. Clenching my fists, I walked over and asked, "Are you Sophia?" She was stunned, looking up at me. Before she could speak, a woman's voice came from behind. I turned around. It was her mother. She looked to be in her 30s, young, dressed simply, with the air of a gentle wife and mother. She looked a bit flustered, her face pale, her hands trembling slightly. "You must be Sophia's classmate?" Her voice was urgent and a bit shaky as she came up to pull me away. "She needs to rest. Come outside for a moment. I have something to tell you." I didn't refuse and followed her out of the ward. In the hallway, she visibly relaxed and hesitated before speaking. "You are." I held up the requisition form and questioned her directly. "Why is my father's signature on your daughter's guardian line?" "Ma'am, what is your relationship with my father?" The hospital hallway was busy with people coming and going, some even recognizing her as they passed. She hadn't expected me to lay my cards on the table so directly. Her expression grew even more nervous as she forced a smile to greet acquaintances. Then, with a strained smile, she explained to me, "That signature, my daughter is sick and a charity organization is sponsoring her. The person in charge was there when we paid the fees, so he just signed it. My daughter has the same last name as me, Wu. It's just a coincidence, don't overthink it." Her words were gentle, trying to avoid suspicion. But her gaze on me revealed a trace of malice and covetousness. I met her eyes directly. She looked guilty and subconsciously tucked her hair behind her ear. I saw the diamond ring on her hand clearly. It was familiar. It was a designer piece. And it was from my mom's favorite designer. This reclusive designer had released a new collection recently, which the industry was buzzing about. It just happened to coincide with my parents' wedding anniversary. I had secretly reminded my dad to snatch up this diamond ring for my mom as an anniversary gift. He agreed and asked me to keep it a secret, saying he planned to surprise Mom. But on the anniversary, what he brought out wasn't the limited edition at all, but a common co-branded piece available in any store. Even the stones on it were cubic zirconia. My dad explained that he got the time wrong due to the time difference during an international meeting and missed it. He could only use the co-branded piece as a placeholder and would find someone to contact the designer for a custom piece later. Turns out he didn't miss it. He just gave it to another woman and used a perfunctory gift to dismiss my mom. I gritted my teeth, suppressing the surging anger. Staring at Grace's awkward expression, my smile didn't reach my eyes. "Ma'am, your ring is beautiful. Is it the designer limited edition?" My mom waited a long time but couldn't buy it. She probably didn't expect a kid like me to recognize it. Her movements froze instantly, her face turning ugly. She hurriedly pulled her hair forward to cover the ring, stammering an excuse. "What designer edition? I don't understand these things. My daughter bought it for me casually. It's not worth much. I have to take care of my child. I'm leaving now. By the way, please don't spread rumors about today, lest your family misunderstands." With that, she turned in a panic and fled back to the ward. Watching her wretched escape, I sneered inwardly. "Ha! A coward with no guts." Without looking back, I turned and left the hospital. Sitting in the car, I immediately contacted my grandfather's assistant. Help me check my dad's recent unusual activities, especially his travel itinerary and financial transactions. Be quick, but be careful not to alert him. Save any evidence immediately. When I got home, my mom was stewing soup in the kitchen. My dad was busy with business when he was young and ate irregularly, resulting in serious stomach problems. He had undergone 2 stomach resection surgeries. My mom felt sorry for him. Someone who never cooked, she went into the kitchen especially for him. Soups, porridges, medicinal meals. She managed to nurse his stomach back to 70 to 80% health. From what I can remember, it's been almost 10 years now. In 2 days, it will be my parents' 20th wedding anniversary. Yet at this moment, I discovered my dad was cheating. Watching her busy back in the kitchen, the resentment in my heart turned into sadness, and I couldn't hold back my tears anymore. She was over 40, but she kept her figure well, and her skin was tight. She looked about 30. Only those hands, with slightly enlarged knuckles, calluses on the palms, and a few pale old scars on the back. She used to love getting manicures, but later stopped because it was inconvenient for cooking. I walked into the kitchen and hugged her gently from behind. She was startled, then laughed and teased me. "You're back? You're about to be a high schooler. Why are you still acting like a baby? Go out quickly. It's smoky in here. I'm busy." Seeing I didn't move, she sensed something was wrong. Turning around, she saw my tear-streaked face and immediately looked nervous. "Lily, why are you crying? Didn't you go for a physical? Dad didn't go with you? Let me ask." She reached for her phone as she spoke. I grabbed her wrist and shook my head hard. "Don't call him." My mom froze, looking at me uneasily, waiting for me to speak. I closed my eyes tight, my throat tight. "My dad, he's cheating." The woman's name is Grace Wu. She used to be his secretary. My movements were stiff, my fingers trembling slightly as I took out the tablet from my bag. The screen lit up, showing the information Uncle Foam, my grandfather's assistant, had helped me investigate. The light from the screen illuminated Mom's pale face. I scrolled through the pages, showing her item by item. They got together not long after she joined the company. That was when you just got pregnant with me. Less than half a year later, she resigned because she was pregnant. My dad bought a large flat in the Cloud Mansion near her house, and the owner is her. When you were suffering in late pregnancy, swollen all over and unable to sleep, my dad was over there making pregnancy meals for her. When you were fighting for your life during a difficult labor, he was massaging her and walking with her to relieve pain. When you were lying in the hospital bed after the C-section, he was accompanying that woman for her checkups, telling her to walk more so she wouldn't have to suffer a C-section later. Mom, that illegitimate daughter is only 6 months younger than me. He cheated while you were pregnant. I cried as I spoke, tears falling on the tablet screen, blooming into small wet marks. My mom stared blankly at the text and photos, her eyes gradually turning red and filling with tears. How could he? Dating, marriage, 20 years. How could he? I hugged her tight, took a deep breath, and continued. "Mom, do you remember the fire at our house when I was little?" She nodded, her voice even hoarser. "Of course I remember. I was on a business trip, your dad was working and taking care of you. He turned around and you set the curtains on fire. He risked his life to save you, terrified, guarding you in the hospital, saying if you were gone, he couldn't live either. Later, when you got out of the ICU, he was so nervous, following you everywhere, often waking up at night to check on you, and constantly comforting me, saying it was all his fault. At that time, I thought he really loved you and cared about this family." Speaking of this, her words revealed a trace of cold sarcasm. I continued to scroll the screen, my finger stopping on an investigation report. What if I said that fire wasn't an accident at all? He thought I was asleep and was in a hurry to see that mother and daughter. He threw an unextinguished cigarette butt into the trash can. The window wasn't closed. The wind blew the curtain in, and it caught fire. He locked me in the room. I had no ability to save myself. And he didn't save me. A neighbor found out, and called the police. Firefighters broke down the door and carried me out to the hospital. He rushed there later. I was only a few years old then and kept drifting in and out of consciousness, so I couldn't remember exactly what happened. Do you think he followed me everywhere during that time because he loved me? He was afraid I would suddenly remember and tell you the truth. He was afraid you would turn against him and he would lose the resources and connections from Grandpa's side. My eyes burned, unable to distinguish between grievance and anger. The happiness I thought I had turned out to be a meticulously arranged scam. Grievance piled up to the peak and turned into anger. I hated him. I hated him for lying to Mom, and even more for giving me this fake love like charity for so many years. What are we in his eyes? But seeing Mom's state, only heartache remained. She was the one hurt the deepest. I wanted to say more, but my phone rang suddenly. It was the hospital. Hello, is this student Lily Wu? There are some indicators in your physical report that need to be rechecked. Please ask your parent to bring you to the hospital for a detailed checkup as soon as possible. I was stunned, trying to make my voice sound calm. Okay, I know. Just after hanging up, my mom's and my phones vibrated almost simultaneously.
Sent to me.
Lily, the hospital called saying you need a recheck. Dad will go with you the day after tomorrow. Sent to Mom. Honey, the French designer you like is holding a private exhibition next week. A friend sent 2 invitation tickets for the afternoon after tomorrow. You go, relax a bit. The day after tomorrow, exactly when I go to the hospital for the recheck. He specifically sent Mom away, wanting to take me alone too. Mom and I looked at each other, neither speaking. I really wanted to know, what expression would he have when his conspiracy was exposed? On the day of the recheck, I arrived at the hospital with my dad. While waiting for a red light, he picked up his phone and sent a voice message to my mom. Honey, did you get to the art center? Is parking convenient there? He was testing the waters. Soon, Mom replied. Arrived, queuing to enter. Parking was a bit far, walked a bit. She also attached a photo of her and a friend at the art center. My dad clicked to enlarge it, then followed up. Heard Morning Mist is on display this time, did you see it? Remember you like that painter very much. A few minutes later, Mom sent a photo of the interior of the exhibition hall. Saw it, more shocking than in the album. A bit crowded, talk later. My dad seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. He turned his head and gave me an impeccable smile. Your mom can finally relax a bit. Hypocrite. I pulled the corner of my mouth, the smile not reaching my eyes. At the hospital, he dutifully played the role of a good father. Recheck, examination, inquiry. He even carefully covered my eyes when blood was drawn. If I hadn't discovered his affair and another daughter, I would probably rely on this tenderness and nestle in his arms like before. The process went quickly. After getting the blood draw receipt, he glanced at his watch, his tone natural. Lily, wait here for a moment, don't run around. Dad needs to use the restroom. Back in a jiffy. Okay. I lowered my eyes and answered softly. The direction he went was the hematology ward. After a while, I got up and quietly followed. The ward door was slightly ajar. I stood outside, looking through the crack. My dad was sitting by the bed, feeding Sophia medicine. The girl leaned on him with full dependence, crying, Dad, I'm scared. Will I die? I don't want to leave you and Mom. My dad gently wiped away her tears, his tone very gentle. Silly child, what nonsense. Dad found you the best doctors in the country and used the best medicine. Look, isn't Dad always here with you? Our Sophia is the bravest. You'll definitely get through this. Grace also leaned over, stroking her daughter's cheek. Sophia, don't be afraid. Mom and Dad are here. Your dad pushed aside so much work for you, running to the hospital every day, contacting this expert and that professor. Did you forget last time you suddenly had a fever in the middle of the night? Your dad was at a meeting abroad, took a red-eye flight back immediately after getting the call, and guarded you for 2 days and nights without closing his eyes. With Dad here, there's nothing to fear. The family of 3 was happy and harmonious. I stood outside like a clown. I remembered when I was 8, acute pneumonia, high fever almost 104 degrees, coughing my lungs out. Mom rushed me to the hospital, her hands shaking with panic. Called him, again and again. Finally, he only replied with a text. With an important client, can't leave, sorry for the trouble. That whole night, it was Mom holding me alone in the emergency infusion room until dawn. Later I learned, that night, Sophia made a fuss not letting him go out. The so-called important client was accompanying them. My fingernails dug deep into my palm, but I felt no pain. Suddenly, someone put an arm around my shoulder. It was Mom. She signaled me with her eyes that it was okay. At this time, the attending physician smiled and spoke. Mr. Wu, Mrs. Wu, don't worry. Although little Sophia's indicators have fluctuated a bit recently, they are generally controllable. With the support of dedicated parents like you, the child's good mentality is crucial for treatment. Our expert group has repeatedly deliberated the bone marrow transplant plan, and now we can operate as soon as the donor is ready. As long as it can save Sophia, anything is worth it. My dad looked at Sophia, his voice firm. As long as it can save Sophia. What about me? Me, treated as a donor. Are my wishes, my health, worth considering? My heart ached numbly. My dad turned to the doctor, his tone steady. I've already settled things with the donor. The relevant procedures can be completed today. Please take care of the surgery and arrange it as soon as possible. Next to him, an elderly expert nodded in agreement. Mr. Wu is truly resolute and cares so much about the child's affairs. Rest assured, the operating room is ready. Once the donor finishes the final pre-op checks and preparations, we can proceed. With a father like you, who has abundant social resources and is hands-on, the child is truly blessed. The head nurse beside him also lamented. Yes, Mr. Wu comes almost every day, we all see it. It's rare to find a man who is successful in his career, yet so family-oriented and responsible. Another doctor added, I heard Mr. Wu not only runs around for his daughter's illness, but also initiated a special relief fund in his own name to help families in similar difficulties. This benevolence is even more worthy of our admiration. The ward was full of compliments and praise, elevating him into a perfect father and philanthropist. Applause erupted as the words fell. The atmosphere was enthusiastic. Mom took my hand and pushed the door open, her voice cold and hard. David Wu, is the recheck you mentioned just tricking my daughter here to be a donor for your bastard? Dead silence instantly filled the ward. All the complimentary smiles froze on their faces. Doctors, nurses, and that expert all looked at us intruders in astonishment, then at Dad and Grace, whose faces had suddenly turned pale. Dad jumped up from the bedside as if scalded, knocking over the water cup. Wife? Lily? Why are you? Why not at the art exhibition? Mom let go of my hand, took a step forward, her gaze sweeping over the girl on the bed who looked so much like Dad, finally fixing on Dad's face. If I didn't come, how could I see with my own eyes how deeply affectionate my husband and his important client's daughter are? Mrs. Wu, listen to me this. Grace wanted to step forward, but was pinned in place by Mom's icy stare. Explain what? I heard my own voice trembling, not from fear, but from the chill after anger burned to the extreme. Explain why you are wearing the wedding anniversary gift that should belong to my mom? Explain why my dad is the person in charge of your charity and your daughter's guardian? David Wu. Mom stopped looking at the mother and dog her, staring only at Dad, every word like ice. When I was swollen and sleepless during pregnancy, you were cooking for her. When I was fighting for my life in labor, you were walking with her. Lily's fire wasn't saved by you at all. It was you rushing to see them, throwing a cigarette, but that almost killed her. You pretended to guard her later, because you were afraid she would remember the truth, afraid of losing my family's resources. 20 years. David Wu, I spent 20 years with you, only to get your deliberate betrayal, and today you trick my daughter here to be a medical ingredient for your bastard? Mom's voice wasn't loud, but every word was clear, smashing into the quiet ward, stirring up a suppressed uproar. The expressions of the doctors and nurses who were praising Dad just now became extremely colorful, whispering and pointing. OMG, the original wife is here? Is that sick girl an illegitimate daughter? Only half a year younger than the wife's daughter? Cheated during pregnancy. Just praised him as a good father and philanthropist. Didn't expect him to be keeping a mistress with his wife's money. No wonder he was so keen on the donor. Turns out he was plotting against his own other daughter. Dad's face alternated between red and white, veins throbbing on his forehead. He tried to maintain dignity. What nonsense are you talking about? Let's talk at home. This is a hospital. The child is still sick. Don't make a scene here. Me making a scene? Mom seemed to have heard the biggest joke. She held up her phone, the screen showing screenshots of some evidence sent by Uncle Foam. David Wu, do I need to show the purchase records, transfer flows, and photos of you vacationing with them one by one to these angels in white? Let them see how you, the benevolence Mr. Wu, eat soft rice hard. You. Dad was exasperated and wanted to grab the phone. What? Wanna hit me? Mom didn't back down. In front of so many people, dirty laundry shouldn't be aired in public? When you did those filthy things, why didn't you think about airing them? Sophia, who had been silent, suddenly cried out. Who are you? Why are you scolding my dad? Dad is mine. He's not yours. She struggled to get out of bed. Grace quickly hugged her daughter, tears falling too, begging Mom. Ms. Gu, everything is my fault. It has nothing to do with the child. She is so sick, she can't take the agitation. David did it to save his daughter. A moment of confusion. Lily is Sophia's biological sister after all. If the match is successful, it's right to save her sister's life. I finally couldn't help it and sneered. Who is her sister? My mom only gave birth to me. Saving her is a favor, not saving her is my right. You secretly tricked me here for blood matching. Did you get my consent? This is illegal. Also, Dad, you just said, as long as it can save Sophia, anything is worth it. So if the match is successful and my marrow is needed, even if it hurts me, do you think it's worth it too? Dad's eyes dodged, lips moving, unable to speak. Good, very good. Mom nodded, the last bit of warmth in her eyes disappearing. She stopped looking at Dad's disgusting struggle, took out her phone directly, dialed a number, and pressed speaker. Dad, you heard it all, right? The ward door was pushed open again. Grandpa walked in with his cane, accompanied by Uncle Foam. He wore a crisp tang suit, his face solemn, eyes like lightning sweeping over Dad's instantly limp body, landing on Grace and her daughter with only cold scrutiny. David Wu. Grandpa's voice wasn't loud, but carried the majesty of long-term authority, silencing the entire ward. From this moment on, you are relieved of all duties in the company. All assets under your name injected or guaranteed by Gu family funds will be frozen and liquidated immediately. Dad. Chairman Gu. Dad panicked completely, wanting to rush over but blocked by Uncle Foam. You can't do this. The company is where it is today because of me. Because of you what? Grandpa interrupted rudely. Without the startup capital and connections the Gu family gave you, without my daughter managing the rear for you all these years, could your small workshop get to where it is today? Lawyers and auditors have intervened in your transfer of company assets and are using company money to support a mistress. For Lily's sake, I'll leave you some leeway. Cooperate actively, leave with nothing, otherwise, wait for a lawsuit. Grace screamed. What gives you the right? David earned those himself. Grandpa didn't even glance at her, only saying to Dad, the choice is yours. Sign the divorce decently, give up what you shouldn't have, or see us in court, and incidentally discuss your responsibility for attempting to deceive and coerce a minor into unnecessary medical procedures. Dad looked like death, stumbling back and hitting the hospital bed. Grandpa turned, looking at Mom and me, his gaze softening. Wan Qing, Lily, let's go home. Just as we were about to leave, Sophia found strength from somewhere, grabbed the water cup from the bedside, and threw it at me. Bad people. You ruined my dad. Ruined my home. Mom pulled me behind her. The cup smashed against the wall, shattering. Mom stopped, looking back at the mother and daughter. Remember, we didn't ruin your home. It was your mother and my husband who built a nest destined to collapse with lies and betrayal from the very beginning. Walking out of the ward, the sunlight in the hallway was a bit blinding. I heard hysterical crying and cursing behind me. Mom held my hand tightly. Her palm was cold, but trembling slightly. I gripped back hard, passing warmth. After returning home, Mom acted swiftly. Lawyers' letters, asset freezing notices, divorce papers. A series of documents followed. Everything Dad left at home was cleared out by Mom's people, and the locks were changed. After doing all this, Mom sat in the refreshed living room, staring out the window in a daze. The sunset plated her with a soft light, but her eyes held a weariness that wouldn't fade. "Lily, was Mom too cruel?" she asked softly, as if asking me, and also asking herself. I walked over, squatted beside her, and rested my head on her knee. "Mom, kindness to the enemy is cruelty to oneself. He lied to you, plotted against me, and he hasn't been family for a long time." Mom stroked my hair. After a long time, she murmured, I felt warm liquid dripping into my hair. After Dad was kicked out of the company by Grandpa, he seemed to age 10 years overnight. He lost all his halo, like a stray dog, and began to pester Mom day and night. Texts, calls, guarding outside the community, crying and confessing, swearing he had completely cut ties with Grace and her daughter. He even got some pastries Mom casually mentioned liking years ago but were long out of production, clumsily learned to make soup, and delivered them to the door. "Honey, I know I deserve to die. Look, I've asked for all the money back from them. Took the house back too. I really have nothing to do with them anymore. Give me another chance, just one." Mom usually didn't even open the door, just watching his performance coldly on the monitor. Until one time he somehow sneaked into the community, kneeling outside the garden entrance, attracting neighbors' side eyes. Mom finally opened the door, handing the divorce agreement to him, eyes indifferent.
"Sign."
"This looks ugly." David Wu looked up sharply, eyes red. "I won't sign." "Honey, 20 years of feelings. How can you be so cruel?" "I'll die before I sign." Standing behind Mom, I couldn't help mocking. 20 years of feelings? Then what about the dozen years of Grace and Sophia? Every cent they used was stained with the light of my mom and the Gu family. Mentioning the mother and daughter, Dad seemed to grab a driftwood. "I've cut ties with them." "Really?" "I stopped the medical expenses. They are living miserably now. Doesn't that prove my determination?" Mom and I looked at each other, understanding tacitly. Sure enough, not long after, we heard that because Sophia couldn't afford the expensive special drugs and follow-up treatment, her condition had relapsed, and she was transferred from the original hospital to a general ward. Grace was forced to sell those valuable things and found a dishwashing job in a restaurant to barely survive. The once carefully pampered illegitimate daughter was now struggling in pain and poverty. And all this was caused by her biological father personally to show determination to his original wife. After learning about their current situation, Dad actually ran to claim credit with a kind of cruel pride. "Honey, look, for you and Lily, I'm willing to do anything. The more miserable they are now, the more it proves I only have this family in my heart." Mom looked at him, the last bit of complex emotion in her eyes disappearing, leaving only pure disgust. "David Wu, you really make me sick." The pride on Dad's face froze. "When you were keeping them, you kept talking about true love and responsibility. Now, to lick back to the Gu family's feet, you can trample the person who bore you a daughter and followed you for over 10 years into the mud in the blink of an eye. You never loved anyone but yourself and your own interests. Your deep affection and regret are just the clumsiest performances." Dad opened his mouth, face turning liver red, but couldn't refute a single word. He slumped down dejectedly, like a popped balloon. He knew his selfishness and despicableness were completely exposed. No matter how much he cried, he couldn't fool the woman he had hurt so deeply in front of him. But he still refused to sign the divorce agreement. Mom stopped wasting words with him and directly entrusted a lawyer to file a lawsuit. With solid evidence against the at-fault party, Dad faced a verdict of leaving with almost nothing and possibly shouldering debts for transferring marital property. He completely panicked and went crazy. One evening, as I was leaving school, his car suddenly blocked my way. He got out unshaven, eyes sunken, forcing a weird, twisted smile. "Lily, Dad will take you to eat your favorite ice cream. Let's talk, persuade your mom, okay?" I backed away warily, trying to go around. But he grabbed my arm violently, with surprising strength, stuffing me into the car indiscriminately. "Be obedient. Dad is doing this for your own good. How can we live without money? Let me go. Help." I struggled desperately, kicking and hitting. He shoved me into the back seat, locked the door, and stepped on the gas like crazy. The car rushed out crookedly, heading for the suburbs. "Call your mom. Tell her to drop the lawsuit. Give me back what's mine. Or else." He controlled the steering wheel with one hand and threw the phone at me with the other, eyes crazy. I knew I couldn't provoke him, but I knew even more I couldn't compromise. Feigning fear, I dialed Mom's number, crying. "Mom, Dad, David Wu. What do you want to do? Bring Lily back. I warn you not to mess around." Mom's voice was extremely anxious. Dad roared at the phone. "Drop the lawsuit immediately. Return my shares and savings. And prepare another 10 million. Or wait to collect your daughter's body." On the other end, Mom's voice turned cold. "You will regret this." Then she hung up. Dad was furious, snatching the phone and smashing it out the window. He drove the car to an abandoned logistics warehouse, dragged me in, and taped my hands and feet. The warehouse was full of dust and the smell of rust, with only a small high window letting in weak light. "You forced me. You forced me." He paced back and forth, muttering to himself, a fruit knife appearing in his hand, the blade gleaming coldly in the dim light. Time passed second by second, fear making me tremble all over. I had never been so close to death. And the person holding the knife was my biological father. Suddenly, a faint siren sound came from the distance. Dad shuddered all over, rushed to the window to look, and his face changed drastically. He rushed back, grabbed me, pressing the cold blade against my neck, screaming at the warehouse entrance. "Don't come over. Stay back, or I'll kill her." The warehouse door was smashed open, and figures of SWAT officers appeared. Strong flashlight beams shone in, blindingly bright. Mom rushed in recklessly. Seeing the knife at my neck, her face instantly lost all color, tears streaming down. "David Wu, let her go. I'll agree to anything. Don't hurt my daughter." In the moment Dad was distracted by Mom's shout and the strong light, the SWAT team struck decisively, subduing him. The fruit knife fell to the ground. Mom rushed over and hugged me tightly, trembling all over. "It's okay, Lily, it's okay. Mom almost lost you." The fear of surviving a disaster hit me, and I couldn't help but cry loudly. I glimpsed Dad being taken away. His eyes were unfocused, mouth still muttering. "They forced me. I didn't mean to. Really, my money, my company." David Wu was prosecuted for kidnapping, intentional injury, as well as transferring marital assets and commercial fraud. During the trial, he claimed excessive mental stress, saying his actions were forced by his wife and her family, trying to exonerate himself. But the psychiatric evaluation did not reach the level of exemption. In the end, he was sentenced to 12 years in prison. Before he went to prison, I went to see him one last time. Through the glass, he was so old and haggard I almost didn't recognize him, his eyes muddy. He scratched unconsciously on the glass. "Dad is sorry to you, and sorry to your mom." I don't know if he had any sincere regret at this moment, or just wanted to maintain the last bit of a pitiful father image. I didn't speak, just looked at him quietly, until the prison guard took him away, and that hunched back disappeared behind the door. I suddenly remembered when I was very small, he carried me on his shoulders to see the Lantern Festival lights. How could me back then imagine that the father-daughter bond would be buried in such an unbearable way? After David Wu went to prison, Grace and Sophia disappeared from the city. I heard Sophia's condition worsened due to interrupted treatment and the blow. They went back to their remote hometown, living on welfare and odd jobs, with a bleak future. Mom never remarried. She put all her energy into remanaging her career and accompanying me growing up. She said she once pinned all her happiness on marriage and fell badly. Now, she wants to hold happiness in her own hands. We moved, changing to a new sun-filled house. The layout and decoration were all according to Mom's preferences from her girlhood. The balcony was full of her favorite flowers. The old story has ended, with pain and unbearable memories. But Mom's and my new life is taking firmer roots towards the sun, continuing to grow. The end.